and welcome to another live stream. This one might be a little bit on the shorter side because I've been under the weather this week. I don't know exactly what's up, but I've had the whole the whole round of symptoms. I'm on antibiotics. I'm feeling better, but still not 100%. So I might keep this on the shorter side if I feel like I'm not able to offer the same quality analysis as you guys are used to, and I'll just get to bed. But I'm going to try to give it my all and see how it goes for as long as I can. So if you're joining us, say hi in the chat and let us know where you are, if you sailed this week, and how it's going. Uh, yeah, let us know how it's going. What's going on administratively before we get into the Facebook group coaching? We have some spots for masterclasses. So if you want to take an in-person masterclass, then I recommend you join one by going to windsurfingmasterclass.com, and then you can go apply here for the in-person masterclasses. And so week one in Morocco is sold out, but it looks like we have an injury. So if you want to get on the wait list for this week in Morocco, it's a really good group of guys. Apply here. And then there's some spots left for week two. Again, apply here. And then in Gran Canaria as well. So these are going to be some really good groups of in-person coaching with me. And so I show up with a filmer and we have a really good time. A lot of the guys who are watching this, a lot of the regulars have all been on masterclasses and are coming on them again. But if you happen to be someone who is watching and is not already planning to go to one of the masterclasses, these are the ones that are happening in Europe this summer. Well, Morocco's not Europe, but it's easy to get to from Europe. So we have June 8th to 14th, and then June 15th to 21st, and then July 21st to 27th. And there might be the possibility of some other shorter ones as well. But these are the full masterclasses are on offer. So if you're interested, sign up. You fill out the application, and then we go from there. All right. Let's get into the chat and the Facebook group and keep this party rolling. All right, how do we have the screens? I got to go back to my, there we go. All right, so who do we have? We've got Jorg. Jorg had 2 sessions. Jorg is always having sessions. I say this at the beginning of every live stream because he's also the first to comment and he's always telling us about his sessions. And I'm always saying that I'm impressed, and I'm still impressed. I love it. April, March, February, it didn't really matter. You were getting on the water. It's awesome. Matt had a light wind session this afternoon, and I was looking in the Facebook group, and it looks like he had a chance to test some of the things we're talking about with adjusting his board. And Matt is also a member of a lot of the other masterclass things that we have going on. Some of the groups through the my.windsurfing masterclass online learning portal, some of the other groups, the in-person masterclasses. He's very involved. And we were chatting about his gear situation, boards, and what board would be best for him and the issues that he was having. And we were talking about some different things. It sounds like he made some of those changes. But one of the things we're talking about, which I think is kind of funny because it's the opposite of what most people would say, is to get an older taboo. I think we even maybe even talking about this on the live stream. Maybe this wasn't in one of the other groups. Maybe this was just on the live stream. I think it was, now that I'm remembering, and I was going on Daily Dose. So you guys have already heard this speech. See, I told you I'm a little sick. I'm not 100%. So we did have this conversation. But yeah, getting like a 10-year-old taboo pocket for a couple $100, which is a great price for a old board in that condition, and just having an extra board in the quiver is also, I think, a pretty cool option. All right, we've got Kevin, who has posted 2 sessions. Awesome. Axel, who has a very windy week coming up. He sent me the screenshot. Whew. Christoph, and Christoph had 2 sessions in Waddell, and he's coming to Morocco. Dennis had a session on the big free ride gear. No chance for the waves yet. Suna had an amazing evening in Denmark. Yeah, it looked good. It looked good. Suna scored it. Love it. Tomas hasn't sailed this year yet. Yeah, you got to make it over. Harold had some. Harold also didn't have the best week, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Ragnar, material fixing and some yoga. Cool. Suna's also so on it. Suna and York, you guys are both so on it. I love it. Inspiring. One thing I love about Suna's approach is he's really got his eye on a lot of different spots, and it's easy to look at maybe just your most convenient spot, but then you only get out at your most convenient spot. And if you have your eye on maybe 4 or 5 different forecast zones, um, yeah, you're gonna get a lot more days on the water and better days on the water too, because then you can cherry pick the better spots. All right, I'm gonna get into the Facebook group. We got Archie Costa joining us in Sardinia with a promising forecast. Awesome. All right. Let's get into the coaching. All right. So first up, Harold. Harold, I'm sorry, man. Looks like this is not supposed to look like this. And that is a bummer. It looked like, I think it was a skateboarding injury. And yeah, we've got to see what the doctors say. Harold's got some appointments this week. But if you are a doctor or if you've had this injury and you want to offer some advice for Harold and you're in the Facebook group, please do so, because it's my experience that when you have an injury, getting lots of different advice, and advice from doctors, but also advice from other people who have had similar injuries, is really helpful, because the anecdotes are important because they help you set up your expectations. They help uh, you sort of learn what the recovery is like, what works, what doesn't work. And then the different advice from doctors, I think, is really valuable because different doctors build a foundation of knowledge based on the cases that they've seen. And so if you're getting advice from multiple doctors, you're getting the value of all of those different knowledge pools. And so another way to sort of highlight the importance of this is that there was a study done. Someone can find the link to the study and post it in the group. I'm not I'm not healthy enough to try to do that now, but there was a study done where they're looking at the efficacy of doctors and if age played a role. And I think that there was the hypothesis was that younger doctors were going to be better doctors, and the reasoning was something that because they're fresh out of medical school, and they're hip on all the latest X, Y, and Z. But actually, what the study showed is that there was a significant result that older doctors generally have better outcomes for their patients. And the conclusion was that that wealth of knowledge that builds by seeing patient after patient, case after case, uh, is really important for patient outcome. And so you want a doctor who has a lot of experience. So if we're looking at this on the specific level, you want a doctor who's dealt with this injury before. You don't want a doctor who's dealing with this injury for the first time and they're just dealing with it based on theory, based on what the textbook says. You want a doctor who's dealt with this preferably more than once. You want a doctor that's dealt with your specific injury multiple times. And then in addition, you want someone who has as much knowledge as possible, so as many cases as possible that can then help inform your um, your specific case and your recovery. And then my addition to that is by getting multiple opinions, then you're able to widen that pool even more. And some of those opinions maybe you will disregard, but I think, like, my experience is that you'll find that there's overlap and uh, encompassing in the opinions, and then you can use that, so sort of how they fit together, to help you understand the overall topology of around knowledge topology of your situation, and then you can make the best decision. Anyway, I think that's a lot more involved than most people want to get. They want to go to one doctor, not even make any decisions, just go to one doctor, the doctor says what to do, and you do that one thing. And I think for best outcome, that's not the way to do it. But you also have to be comfortable with the process and happy with the process. And so, if my process isn't something that would work for you, then don't do it. But yeah, so if you've got experience for Harold, post it. All right. Next up, we have a post from Matteo. He says, unfortunately, no win this week. He found some clips from a month ago. This is the 2 waves from his favorite wave spot in Sardinia. All right, let's make it big. All right, yeah, low quality. What low quality is fine. What I always say is that even if you're filming with an iPhone, it still shows us enough that we can offer some coaching. Ooh, I love it. I love it. Nice timing on that off the lip. Nice timing. So let's watch that again. I'm mainly just stoked on the timing. You're coming up under the lip, hitting it in the pocket, little aerial. I count this I count this as a win. We can try and pick apart this wave and look at things that could be done better. Uh, but that hit is really solid. It's a nice hit. So I guess my question to you, because there's nothing wrong with this, is where do you want to go next with it? And so you could tweak it. You could start tweaking these aerials. You could start trying to link straight out of the aerial into another turn and go right into your bottom turn, and then you would be able to do that cut back on a steeper part of the wave. Um, if you really wanted to, it looks like this kind of section and this kind of moment would work for an aerial wave 360. So those are 3 different directions that you could push this to the next level. But in terms of critiquing what you're doing, this is great. This is great. You're doing a solid carving bottom turn, coming up under the lip, getting that perfect high five timing, cracking it, bam, landing in front. It's beautiful. So you could tweak it. You could go right into the other bottom turn, or you could go for an aerial wave 360. And all of those would, yeah, be next steps. All right, let's make this full screen. Okay, this one's a little bit harder to see because it's more backlit, and so the quality makes it pretty hard to see. I'm gonna go back and make this smaller and see if that helps us here. This quality is pretty difficult. Can you guys see the clip? Yeah, okay. If you can't see it, you gotta let me know in the chat. All right, so it's hard for me to see. I can't see much in this footage. That is one problem with the lower quality sensors, is that in backlit conditions and in low light conditions, they don't record as well. Um, Looks nice. I mean, my comment here would mainly be about the timing. I think you could have started deeper. So you could have started a little bit over here on the wave. And then even with the same timing, but you start deeper, and then you're coming up on the wall here. So you're coming up, um, what is that? Maybe 4 meters more upwind or 3 meters, which is a huge difference in how steep the wave is. So where you are on the wave, where you end up, where you do the cutback, it's not very steep, I can tell, even in this low quality video. And it's a lot steeper right here. And so if you're able to come up the wave on this section, you would be able to do a much nicer carving cutback. It would be much, much more radical, nice carve. You wouldn't stall out on the top like you kind of do on this one. Um, and then you'd be able to go into a second turn, they'd be a lot more radical because then the wave goes, you know, flat. Um, so setting up deeper, I think mainly is what would enable that. I don't think it's going later so much as setting up deeper. So hopefully that helps. Those are two pretty clear notes for each of these waves. All right, next up, we've got a post from Kevin. This is video 2. So is there another post? I'm just checking if there's another. So should we do them in order? I'm going to do them in order. So we're going to jump around. Kevin says he's trying to implement a better stance in the bottom turn using the hips and leaning over the center of the board, trying not to pull the rig towards him. Trying to get more of a U-turn, getting more critical, trying to get more hits, including the whitewater. There's a long way to go, but he's improved since the first go. Smaller is better, but I think because your footage quality is high, I think we can go big. If it doesn't, you let me know. We'll go small again. All right. So but long, fun waves. You guys have super fun. So many turns. Okay, I've got some. I've got some notes. I've got some notes. So I can see what we've been talking about being implemented, but I've got some things to add. All right, start from the beginning. I'm not 100% sure for this spot because I'd have to see it from a different angle from the beach. But I think there's a better way to set up on this wave because you're coming up into the whitewater and then you're getting kind of caught. And so either going around this whitewater section or starting earlier, I think would make it easier. I mean, it doesn't really hold you back, but it still would be easier. I like the U-ness of this turn. Uh, we're really getting more of a U-shaped turn here, coming up the wave and then transitioning onto that comeback rail. So my note, I have one main note because I know we've been talking about a lot, Kevin, and I don't want to I don't want to say too many things. You already have a lot of notes. Um, maybe I can't help myself. Maybe I have to say two things. Sorry. So the first thing is about the high fives. So you're coming close with them. So this one, you're still turning the board where you get to the water, and you don't want to do that. You want to still be driving the board into the whitewater. The way that I like to talk about it and think about it is that the bottom turn is your job, and the cutback is the wave's job. And so if you're working hard in the cutback, you're doing it wrong. The bottom turn is a place to work hard, and the cutback isn't. Uh, the work of the bottom turn is to place the board in a position where then the power of the wave and the placement of your body drives the board into the cutback, whether it's a carving cutback or an off the lip. um, there's a certain effortless feeling, even from his hard work to get there and even to hold that position. It's not a feeling of muscling the turn. And so, if you look at what's happening with your board, you're coming up to the whitewater, but you're already starting to turn the board back towards the beach. And we don't want to be doing that. You want to be driving the board into the whitewater until you get to the whitewater, and then the whitewater or the lip is what turns the board back to the beach. And so what you want to think about doing is getting the board onto the heel side rail. So the board is transitioning, but it's not transitioning turning from this way to turning that way. It's not turning transitioning left to right. It's transitioning toe to heel. And once this concept is really embodied, it will be so liberating, because not only is it going to improve your cutbacks because then you're going to be putting your board in the right position, but it's also going to be improving your bottom turns. One of my big epiphanies as a coach was realizing that when a sailor is thinking about doing the work of the cutback, then they can't commit to the bottom turn because the direction of the bottom turn is opposite to the direction of the cutback. And so, if in the middle of the bottom turn you're already thinking and starting to do the work of the cutback, then you're canceling out the work of the bottom turn and you can't fully commit to the bottom turn. Like, how could you fully commit to the bottom turn if then you have to do the work of the cutback? Like, that's a paradox. It just doesn't work. And the answer is that you don't have to do the work of the cutback. You do have to do the work of the bottom turn. And so you have to be fully committed into the bottom turn. And so that means driving your bottom turn. So here, if we look at this bottom turn, you're driving, you're leaning, driving, and you stop here. But this is just the middle of the bottom turn. Like, we're just still coming at the wave. And at this point, you're already starting to transition into the cutback. And the nose is pointing back to the beach. And what we want to do instead is we're still driving up the wave, but then we're transitioning onto the heel side rail. And then the whitewater comes, hits the bottom of the board. That's all presented, ready. You're on the heels. That impact happens, and you get pushed into the off the lip or the cutback or whatever the maneuver is that you're doing. The second one, I think, is a little bit closer. We get a little bit of this high five action where you're getting the heels presented, getting some of that acceleration from the wave, but really focusing on doing that work in the long term, letting the wave through the cutback is gonna make a big difference. And then the second thing I said that there were gonna be, 2 comments, is you're doing a lot of looking around the mast, a lot of looking around the mast. Uh, I want you to think about looking when you're coming up for that off the lip or for those cutbacks. So, um, let me show you an example. Uh, None of these are quite what I'm talking about, but like here, I don't know exactly where you're looking because I don't know where your camera's pointed. So I guess you could tell us in the chat, is your camera pointing where your head is looking? Because if your head is looking here, we don't want to be looking kind of around the mask. We want to be looking uh, around the clue, actually. So around your backhand, and then you're trying to look then up the way through the backhand. I really like this little section though. You're going for this corner pocket here. I like this is super positive. Um, what I'm just trying to point out, and maybe this is even a better example of it, is where you're really looking around the front of the mast. Um, and then here you transition to looking around the clue. Uh, so you already are doing a combination, but I think you can do more of looking around the clue, more of looking around the clue. Um, yeah, so it's not like it's something super new, but just looking more around the clue is gonna make a difference. All right, let me quickly check the chat. It's like a tongue twister. Quickly check the chat. So Kevin is saying that the waves are not very steep. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that, which is good though. That makes them forgiving. Makes them good for learning and trying things. Archie Costa says there's a picture taken in Kapumanu. Definitely, you could suggest if I go more vertical, going up on the wave. Looks like I'm going straight to the right. Um, I'll have to check that. All right, let's watch Kevin's. Um, Andrea, where'd you post your picture? You post it in the group? Let me refresh it and see. Um, oh yeah, here we go. Okay, Andrea. Yeah, we'll get to yours when we're done with Kevin's. All right. So Kevin, this is the second video, and so this is on 87 and 37, so pretty windy. Um, yeah, so Kevin says it's on the limit. 37 weather is often on the limit. Make it big, the full screen. I like the full screen. All right, here we go, full screen. So here we go. We got some good looking around the clue, coming up the wave. Um, even more looking around the clue, like really aggressively, so that the clue is really open. This is hard, and that's something that's hard to do when it's super windy because, oh, look at that. Oh, I love this. I love this. Look at this. So this is a perfect example of finding a corner pocket and getting a high five smack from it. And I want to point out that it's not a beautiful section. It's not the most perfect bottom turn I've ever seen, but I absolutely love it. And this is something that everyone should be looking for because these sections are the easiest and best sections for off the lips, which therefore makes them the best training and best way to improve off the lips. It's like step one of doing off the lips. And if you want to get better at doing off the lips, uh, it's not about getting the perfect technique right away. It's about getting the reps, getting the repetitions. And the best way to get the repetitions is on the easiest, the best sections. And those best sections are the corner pocket sections, those sections that are coming towards you, like this one is. And then you just bottom into that thing, sit your board in the curl, get on your heels, get that high five, and look at this. Bam! It's exactly what we're talking about. Yeah, this is a win. There's some moments where you're sliding, there's some stuff that's not the prettiest there, but this is awesome. This is a win. This is fully connected with the wave. You've got full power there, high five, slamming it. I know it felt good. Look for more of these. Do more of these. Everyone should do more of these. Yes, 100%. High five on the corner pocket. Yes, 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 yes. Yeah. So I don't know how scary this is in real life. This next one here. Wait, let's go back. Yeah, so I don't know how scary this is. Sometimes the helmet cams, they don't paint the most accurate picture. This could be a lot more scary than it looks with the cam. It looks from the cam, I think you could just hit this section. Kevin, I think you're good enough to hit this. And I think it will be a little bit scary, but that fear is also what makes this fun, and that it's excitement. Breathe into it, hit the section. Even if you don't make it, the consequences aren't that big, and you're gonna almost make it. You just gotta come up for it, get that high five, and let it pull you. Hold on with your hands. And even if you fall, you hold on with your hands. You're gonna stay with the rig. There's not enough power to separate you. I could be wrong, and if I am wrong, then don't do that. Right? It's hard for me to say from this video, but it looks like you can come up and just hit this section, and it'll feel amazing. All right. So again, we can be looking a little bit more around the clue of the sail. A little bit more around the clue of the sail. I don't want to say to always look around the clue of the sail because that's also not accurate. But a little bit more than what you're doing. All right, let's see. All right. Yeah, it's windy. Yeah, I can see the water flying, and the sail is really fighting to stay upright. Whew. Oh, yeah. All right, let's see. Oof. Yeah, it's hard when it's so windy because, so like last week we were talking about how you can tell a lot from the bottom of the wave about when it's ready to break because it gets smooth and the surface tension of the water. But when it's like howling windy, you'll get even when the wave is ready to break if the wind isn't like straight offshore. And yeah, it makes it harder having all this wind for sure. Oh yeah, beautiful. So there's another example where you could also hit it. You could just throw the board into that bowl. Just get the high five. The important thing is to get that high five position because if you have the board in the high five position and you get that bottom of the board in the lip, whereas here you're just a little bit under the lip. So here you're a little bit under the lip. If you're in the lip, you actually get the projection in front. So you get projected away from the scary stuff. So it's even safer. I mean, it still looked nice. It looked like you were in the pocket there. No problem with that turn. Ooh, yeah. So I think that, but I mean, a lot that I said to work on, but yeah, I love it. Looks like fun. Um, yeah, cool. So hopefully that's clear. Hopefully that's clear. Let me know if it isn't. All right, let's go through. Um, so should we recap actually? Sorry, like I said, I've been really sick, so I might not be on my A game. Let's recap quickly. So Kevin, what did we say? We said you let us know. This is probably good actually. You let us know what are the three main things that you're going to work on the next forecast, and we'll come back to it in the chat. And for now, we're going to do these quick questions. So Jorge says rigging small and full versus big and flat. Oof, the difficult questions, Jorge. I think it depends. In general, I would probably say I like to have more shape in the sail than to have a flatter sail. I don't like having a really flat sail, so I'd rather have small and full. But that's not always the case. Sometimes if it's really gusty or if it's more onshore, then I prefer it big and flat in the riding. If it's more down the line, then maybe I prefer it more small and full. Like in onshore, I think you want kind of a flatter sail because it's easier if it's like windy onshore, because then it's easier to play with in the wind, which isn't, you don't want it like super crazy flat, but just in terms of the rigging, you can ride it flatter. But I think also it just comes down to personal preference. But I think generally I'd prefer small and full. Generally, um, it also depends on what you expect. If you expect the wind to drop, then I might go big and flat, and then I can adjust it on the water. Um, I'll do that a lot at Hokipa, for example, in the evening. So guys might be out on um, 4.5s, and I go out on a 5.0, and I rig it flat. Uh, but they got on the water at 2 at the peak of the trade winds, and I'm getting on the water at 4. And okay, I'm going to be fully powered up for my first 30 minutes, but then I want to sail until 6. And I know that the last hour is going to get a lot lighter. And so then I'm going to drop in the water and adjust the outhaul and the downhaul on my 5.0, and it's going to be perfect. So sometimes I will also do big and flat if I'm expecting that kind of change. Nicholas asked when the wind is coming back, and I don't know. Mike has a question about filming himself. So he wants to film himself for footage, for coaching. What setup, mount, and camera work best? Okay. So my answer is kind of a non-answer, and it is, do you sail with a crew? Because the best is to get together with a small group, maybe 2 other windsurfers, maybe 3 more, and you buy a camera and a tripod together. It's important that the tripod has a good fluid head so that it pans easily. Otherwise, that will destroy your footage. It just doesn't film well. You want a tripod with a good fluid head, and then you can get a camera with a optical zoom, and there's cheap ones that are good enough, or you can get a better one. Um, and yeah, take turns. Like, I know there's a group of, I think it's 4 guys, and they each take 20 minutes, take a break, sit on the beach, sit behind the camera. And that means that at the end of the session, they each have an hour of footage, and maybe they'll sail for 3 hours, but that's the plan, is that they'll come in, film for 20 minutes, and then go back out. And so they each have an hour of footage. They only had to sit on the beach filming for 20 minutes. Uh, and that's really valuable. And that footage is going to be, in terms of the angles and everything else, that is going to be the best angle for improving, because then you really can see everything. The caveat I'll add is that filming windsurfing is not that easy. Making sure you don't miss moves is not easy. It really is a learned skill. And so maybe I'm too quick to jump to this as an option, because it really isn't that easy to sit on the beach and to film windsurfing. Um, there, you have to come up with some rules. So, in this example that I said, we have 4 people together. That means that you're filming 3 people, because one person is on the beach. Filming 3 people is hard. Filming one person is hard. Means you're not filming anyone else. You're not filming any of the other friends or whatever. You're filming those people. You can't be talking to anyone while you're doing it. You have to be concentrating on the filming. Otherwise, you're going to miss stuff. And if you're missing stuff, then you are letting down your buddies on the water. So you can't talk to someone. It's almost even too much to be listening to a podcast or something. It really takes so much concentration to film windsurfing. You have to anticipate when people are going to jump, when they're going to do their rides. Uh, it's often best practice not to leave someone on a ride to try to get someone else. So you finish the ride, even if someone else is already starting a wave somewhere, or maybe going to go for a jump. You don't want to be jerking around, because then you end up missing everything. Another tip is, you don't want to edit in the camera. You can edit on your computer. So don't just turn off the record right when the jump lands, or as soon as someone falls in the wave. Let it roll a little bit, because maybe they won't fall. Maybe that back loop, the mast pops back up and they get going again, or they save it out of the whitewater. So don't edit in the camera, right? Give a buffer before and after for each clip. Now, if this doesn't work for you, which it doesn't work for a lot of people, because maybe they don't have the friends, or they don't have the skills, or whatever. There's a lot of reasons why this doesn't work. Then an action cam setup also works great, and there's a lot of setups that work well. So for example, we were just watching Kevin. He's got, looks like a GoPro on the helmet. Maybe it's not a GoPro, maybe it's one of the other GoPro-esque action cameras on the helmet. It works. The Insta360s also work. Ben Profit has a setup that he likes. There's a YouTube video he did explaining it, where it's an Insta360 on a little mast, like a little, like, I guess it's a aluminum or carbon mast that then clamps to your mast above the boom. And that's really good. You can see kind of everything. So when I'm evaluating footage, I want to see hands, feet, and head, or at least have an idea of what the head is doing, and then also see the action. So Kevin's mount is good. We don't have a perfect idea of where his head's looking, but pretty good, because it camera's on his head, so it's pretty good. And like you just saw, I was able to go through that footage. I can see what's happening. I think it works. And that's a pretty easy setup that a lot of people do. The other easy setup that people do is putting it up on the mast, and that can work, but it can also not work. It can also be difficult to see the surroundings, and so you don't really have an idea of what the waves look like. So unless you have that setup, the mast setup, really correct, or really done well, then I would say the helmet is a lot easier. The helmet's a lot easier to get it right. I like Ben's Insta360, which is a little bit more work, but it's pretty cool. You get a view of everything. So that's a starting place. If other people have advice, put it here. All right, Kevin says, looking forward to the coaching. Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. All right, another question from Jorge. Does sheeting out when bottom turning and off the top help to carve harder? So sheeting out, yeah, short answer, yes. Long answer, it depends. Yeah. So in the bottom turn, especially, it can be useful to sheet in. Sometimes thinking about sheeting in to help drive the bottom turn actually has a counterproductive effect, because then sheeting in is this like pulling back, and then you're leaning back. So you have to be sheeting in while also leaning everything forward and pushing with your front arm forward. So there's a lot of counterintuitive movements happening there. And so I think it's better in the beginning to think about just sheeting out. Anyway, all right, let's check the chat quick. So these are Kevin's 3 points, where he's looking, get the board into the high position, and drive more into the white water for the wave to make the turn. Yeah, cool. So another way to think about that is that the bottom turn is your job, the cutback is the wave's job. So you don't need to turn the board left, right in the cutback at all. It's just about getting on the heels, and then the power of the wave turns it. It the looking in the right place is also going to help with the stance and body position. Yes. Yep. 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 All right. So Andrea, here we go. These are beautiful photos. I love the colors on these. Whoa. And Andrea, you posted a question in the chat. So you said, where's your question? Okay. So you said, could you go more vertical? Yes. Short answer, yeah. Yeah, you could go a lot more vertical. This looks beautiful, and you have a much more cruisy kind of bottom turn. You're in critical position, but you could go a lot more vertical. So you could come down in front, do a very U-shaped bottom turn, and try to really come straight up the wave. And like we were just talking about with Kevin, really looking around the clue will help make that easier. But this is also easier, and I'm not easier. This is also beautiful, and there's nothing wrong with an easier style, kind of cruisy S turn. And yeah, this looks beautiful. Something that I would focus on is really going toe to heel, toe to heel. This is something that we can all focus on. Don't think about going left to right. It's about toe to heel, toe to heel. All right. Peter says, "Do you rinse your gear?" I love questions like this. They always inspire so much conversation. I mean, we've got so many people commenting on this. Um, yeah, and some people never do, and some people do. I never do. I never wash my gear. Never, ever, ever. And you don't have to. There's nothing that's gonna rot or rust. Um, but but there is something that I have noticed, and if you want your sails to look fresh longer, and you're sailing in places where salt collects on the sails, and this isn't true everywhere, but it's true in the Canary Islands, and it's maybe true in Hawaii. I don't think it's true in Denmark. I think it has to do with the heat. I'm not sure what makes the salt stay on the sails more. Do you guys know, like, why in some places is the sail getting more salty? So, like in Denmark, we're sailing in the ocean. I don't feel like the salt collects on the sails. In Gran Canaria, you do one session, you come in and you can sometimes, like, swipe your finger down the sail and you've got like enough salt to cook your pasta in. Um, why is that? I don't know. But that salt, it's abrasive, right? It's abrasive. You can rub it on your hands, and it's like sand, right? It dries, and it's abrasive. And so, like, when it's in the water and it's a solution, it's obviously not, but the water evaporates. You have the salt crystals. They're abrasive. They scratch the film, the clear film that our sails are made of, and those tiny little scratches make it look cloudy. And so, if you are sailing somewhere where salt collects on the sails, then I do recommend rinsing the sails right after your session just to get the salt off, so that the salt crystals don't make those little abrasions that then make the film look cloudy. And that will help keep your sails looking um, fresh and new. All right, we've got a question from Joe about rail work. And so he's got these different screenshots, Moritz and Browsy. And Moritz is dropping the hips in the turn, and he's looking at Brausinho, and he's trying to compare them and talking about positions. Um, and yeah, I don't think that this is a position that we really want to be aiming for. And sometimes it's a position that happens. Um, But often the business position is something more like this, and then there's a transition position, which is what's happening here and here, where then coming up into the lip, and so the meat of the bottom turn's already happened. He's going to be going, like, from this point. He starts going into his heel rail, but he's still driving up into the lip, right? So this relates to what we were talking about before. It's his job to do the bottom turn. So he's going to be driving this bottom turn all the way up into the lip, up until he gets here. And then the lip is what's going to push him back into the wave. But he's going to start coming off that toe rail into the heel rail, so that then the bottom of the board is presented to the lip. and we get that high five. There are some weird positions that windsurfers can get into, and Rory here in the comments is talking about Loic, and Loic gets into some funky positions, and I love watching him windsurf, but it's really not a model to copy because he's been windsurfing since he's like 6. He's one of the best windsurfers in the world. He's got some really bizarre flexibility, and he learned how to contort himself in these weird positions to make it work. Like he's got fully straight legs, but he's like bending. He's just like the opposite of what I say you should do. He's like straight everywhere except the ankles, bends everything over, and it works for him. And it looks cool because he's tall and lanky. He's got these really long legs and long arms, and but it's not something to copy. Um, unless you've been windsurfing since you were 6 and you're one of the best windsurfers in the world and you have really long legs and long arms and you're really skinny and really absurdly flexible. Like it's just not something to copy that kind of thing. So now these pictures from Tavi are different. And so this is Julian Salmon, and this is more of a transition position actually, what he's doing here. So this is kind of a gnarly still. I would like to see what happens. This could be one of the most epic sections for a 360. It could be that he's too late for this section. Um, or it could be like kind of coming up lip, do an aerial. I would like to see this. What happens next in this? I could see him going for a 360, be a sick 360 section. I could also see him just being too late, and so he's trying to get like use the sail, trying to get up the wave, but not be so committed in the bottom turn, and needs to make space as well for the sail. So that's why he's really pushing the sail back. Otherwise, the sail is going to hit um, the wave. So like there's a lot of things going on in this picture. And so you can't extrapolate too much just from like single pictures into what the universal ideal technique is. Is this the next shot from that? Must be. That actually surprises me. But it is. Okay. Interesting. So good on him. So he's able to um really come out of that position quickly, which also, okay, I understand it better. So exactly like I was saying, this is a transition moment. So he's doing the harder bottom turn here, I imagine. There's this moment of kind of unweighting. The sail is pushed back, and then he's driving the board um, up. And this is a technique that's used um, in surfing actually as well, or in skateboarding as well, where you can come up the bottom in the bottom, and you're kind of extended in that bottom portion, and then you kind of like suck your legs up the face. So you can do this in a skateboarding in a bowl, or you can also do it surfing, and you can also do it windsurfing. And he's doing this exactly here. So he's going from that more extended position uh, here, and there's a moment of unweighting, and then this is that transition from the toe to the heel side rail, and then in that transition he's sucking the feet up the face. It's a really nice feeling when it works, but definitely something that's more advanced, I would say, and the sail needs to be kind of neutral, and then he's again still driving the bottom turn up right into the lip. You can see he's thinking about the cutback by transitioning to that heel side rail, but he's not turning the board in the cutback direction at all. The wave is going to do that work for him. Here, this looks like Tavi. Totally different kind of conditions. And again, it's a position that's working for him, but again, these are really specific conditions. So I don't know if there's a lot to extrapolate from this in terms of like universal platonic ideal of bottom turn positions. Um, but it's fun to talk about and fun to look at this stuff. So I think it's a good post. Um, I just wish I had something more concrete to say, like, yes, do this, don't do that. But the answer is it's kind of more complicated, and looking at these different transition moments out of the full context is also difficult. Um, yeah, Joe is an alumni of our in-person master classes, and he's someone who takes advantage of the private coaching. If you want private coaching, we can do Zoom coaching. You just go to the windsurfingmasterclass.com and go to the homepage, and one-on-one Zoom coaching. You just click this, book a Zoom coaching, wham, bam, bam, do this payment, bam, 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 email me and set up a time, and we can do one-on-one coaching. And Joe takes advantage of that, and we've been working on a lot of cool things together. Um, and we were talking about bottom turns and talking about this kind of stuff in some of the coaching. And I think it's really cool, Joe, that you're thinking about it so much and going through then after our conversation, finding all these waves and screenshots and stuff. Um, and so I hope I'm not, by saying that there's not like a concrete thing to pull out of it. I hope that's not discouraging, because I think it is valuable actually looking at all this stuff, even though, um, the contexts are all different, right? We've got different kinds of waves and different conditions. I think watching it is actually really valuable, and not to pull out um, conscious takeaways necessarily, but for it just to absorb in your brain, and then your subconscious has that like reservoir for when it's maybe needed at some point. Um, but yeah, it is difficult without more context in some of these things to really extrapolate rules. But yeah, I think so. Joe, you are, I would say, high level uh, amateur wave sailor. In fact, I think you're the number one amateur in the UK at the moment, right? And so, what I was saying about that surfing transition, which I would say is more of an advanced maneuver, is maybe something that we should start talking about. Um, let's pick that up in the Zoom coaching, because it's something that's a bit more better suited to that kind of discussion to really explain it. And maybe the feeling from surfing or skateboarding. I don't know if you've done like bowl skateboarding. I can't remember if we've talked about that. All right, let's move on. So light wind practice. I love stuff like this. I think this is so beneficial. So doing the lee side sailing, doing heli tags, doing duck dives, doing duck tags, sailing crew first, sailing switch stands, all of this stuff with light on a board is going to help the overall windsurfing or wave sailing so much. It's fun. You can set a little goal for yourself of learning the different maneuvers, like heli tags, and then learning touch dives, and then maybe learning pretty fast first heli tags, learning lee side sailing. Like there's so many things to learn, and it all trickles down, trickles up, fills in the nooks and crannies. It just helps make your windsurfing more complete and better. All right, this is a little thing about booms. I love the discussion here. This came out of our coaching last week. Um, and we got a post from Dana that just missed the coaching last week and getting solid conditions on the Oregon coast. Look at it. Looks like he's the only person out. Oregon coast windsurfing is so fun. Is that an otter? What is that? It's an otter. It's amazing. Oh. There's someone else out too. So two people out. Oregon coast. Oh, I love the Oregon coast. I used to go there in the summers sometimes, and it is a lot of fun. I want to go back. I want to go back. Maybe next year. All right, guys. Like I said, I have been sick, so I'm gonna call it. We've hit an hour. Ragnar, by the way, with the research, um, there's more salt water in the Canaries than in Denmark. Answer, pretty simple. Huh. I think that, and the Mediterranean has even more. I think it also has to do with, um, I guess that's just it. I mean, I was gonna say it has to do with the wind, but yeah, maybe it's just the concentration. I don't know. Thank you, Denmark. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. If you want to join one of our in-person master classes, I really encourage you to apply. They are a lot of fun. You go to windsurfingmasterclass.com. Here, I'm going to show you the whole thing. So windsurfingmasterclass.com, and then you go apply here, or you can click here and go to masterclass schedule. And there are 3 around Europe in June, 18th, 14th, and 15th to 21st in Morocco, and then in Gran Canaria, 21 to 27. If you want to support the live stream, you can do that as well with donations. There's some different tiers, and we've got these guys are Hall of Fame donators. Thank you guys all very, very, very much. Yep, so that's it for the admin stuff. I am going to sign off. How do I put my face back on? There we go. All right, I'm going to sign off, get to bed, get better, take my antibiotic somewhere. I've got my pills, my penicillin pills. No, I'm feeling better. I tell you though, it's been rough. I was feeling so good, so healthy. I was getting on the water, having the best sessions of my life, just tripping how good it was on Maui. Like really, it was amazing. Like mast high, and I was the only person out, and just perfect, beautiful down the line windsurfing. And I felt amazing physically. And then we came back to Europe. I've been here now like a month, and just physically destroyed, just like one little sickness after the other. Um, but I think this is the end. I'm healing from this one, and then it's time to be healthy. It's spring. Summer is around the corner, and we're going to have a great European windsurfing spring and summer. All right, everyone, I'm going to sign off.